Lastly, we're going to talk about rationalizing the denominator. Rationalizing means manipulating the expression so that there is no radical in the denominator. This used to be very important before we had computers and calculators because it made computations easier because they had to do a lot of them by hand. If a radical was in the bottom, it was very difficult to divide that by hand, right? If we had to do 2 divided by root 5, where would we even start? So, what they would do is move them to the top. Now, you can't just do anything to an expression because it could change the value of the expression. But what you can always do is multiply by 1, right? If we multiply 1 by 1, it just stays the same. But what we need to do is multiply by root 3n so that we can cancel out that radical on the bottom. Well, how do we multiply by something that has a root 3n on the bottom but is also equal to 1? We're just going to multiply by root 3n over root 3n, right? Technically, that's 1, so we're not changing the expression at all. So we have the square root of 3n times 5, and then on the bottom, our square roots are going to cancel, and we're going to have 3n. And then up top, 3 times 5 is 15n over 3n. And that would be your answer. So we're just making it so there's no radical in the denominator. Now, if we look at 16, sometimes it's a little more complicated if it's not just the radical. And we would, to cancel out this one, what we would do is multiply by something called the conjugate. And the conjugate is just the same expression, but with the opposite sign between them. So if it's minus, our conjugate would have a plus, or if it was plus, your conjugate would have a minus. And what this will do is when we multiply these together, when we FOIL them, let's do it down here. 2 minus root 3 times 2 plus root 3. So when we're distributing our factors, 2 times 2 is going to be 4. 2 times root 3 is plus 2 root 3. Negative root 3 times 2 is minus 2 root 3. And negative root 3 times positive root 3 will be minus 3. Now what happens is these roots will cancel out. So we'll just have 4 minus 3, which is 1. So when you multiply by the conjugate, it will cancel out all the roots. So we'll have 1 on the bottom. And then we will, let's do the top over here, 7 times 2 plus root 3. We're going to distribute the 7. So we get 14 plus 7 root 3 on top. And that would be your answer. So we don't necessarily have to rationalize anymore, but it's a good thing to know for the history of math.